Hello and welcome back to another episode of Meet the Contractor. I'm Glenn, a member of the technical team here at Quelfire, and for this episode I'm joined by Ryan and Connor from Elite Fire Stop. Would you like to introduce yourselves and give us a bit of history on Elite?
My name's Ryan O'Neill. I'm the technical manager for Elite Fire Stop. Been within the construction industry probably longer than I care to remember, 30 plus years within distribution and then manufacturing with a fire stop system manufacturer, and then for the last nearly a year now with Elite as the technical manager. Good understanding of products out there in the marketplace, and work closely with the contract managing clients to develop fully compliant solutions, and also work closely with our installers to make sure they've got the knowledge and understanding of what they're doing, and then they know they've got the technical support from the contract manager himself where they've got any sort of issues on site that we can help them develop and solve for them. And I'll let Connor go on about himself and the business.
Yeah, I'm Connor Holmes. I'm Senior Contracts Manager at Elite Fire Stop. As a business, Elite, we started in February 2018. I've been there since the start with my director 𝘨𝘩𝘁𝘴 and John Frogger. We are probably operating around 100 strong at the minute between all three divisions of the instruments, fire doors, and of course passive fire. I started on the tools when I was 18 years old. I actually worked for David's dad at a previous company. Sadly, he's no longer with us, and David had set up his own business. David took me on, and I've sort of worked my way up. I think between Dave and John, there's maybe a good 25 years worth of knowledge within the industry. They've watched the industry grow, and they've grown with it.
Great. And in terms of Elite, obviously, who is it that you're working with? What are you doing? Obviously, you've grown massively, I presume, since 2018. Where are you today?
Between obviously back of house, we've got technical manager Ryan, our own quality managers, 𝘵𝘃𝘱𝘍, health and safety managers. There's 3, 4, 5 contracts managers, if you include instruments and the doors. We are currently working for probably 60-70% of the top 10 tier 1 contractors. We do a lot of work for those. We do a lot of work sort of residential housing schemes, stuff like that for the local councils. We are directly employed by NHS to look after a number of hospital schemes as well. So yeah, we've grown quite a lot.
Yeah, no, that's good. Excellent. So covering key areas, but obviously very much specialist in the passive side of things, and companies obviously growing, which is good to see. So what sort of projects do you guys normally work on then?
Initially, our bread and butter was the schools, hospitals, DFE frameworks, a lot of remedials within hospitals, on the new builds on hospitals. But then typically we do have quite a lot of refurbishment work coming up, don't we?
Yeah.
So just again picking up all that kind of work. Apartment blocks. Yeah. Obviously, because of the instruments division, we pick up a lot of the industrial units.
So in terms of obviously the fire stopping industry in general, passive fire protection, there's obviously a lot of companies out there. There's a lot that do passive fire protection, all elements of it. What is there anything that you would say that sets Elite apart in the industry from other companies?
I think for me, since I've been joined, is really impressed with the keen focus on trying to get the technical support right. So historically, fire stopping's viewed by a lot of main contract clients as putting bat in a hole. We're trying to get them to understand more that it's not just putting bat in a hole. It's a technical business. You've got to understand your pipe types. You've got to understand your fire ratings. You've got to understand how you can achieve a compliant solution. And Elite as a business seem really keen on promoting that, not just from a point of view of with the client, but with the guys on the tools, so they understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, and they understand the solutions. So for me, it's about us pushing that as a whole business and making sure that we are technically switched on and understand why we're doing what we're doing, and we're working in line with those specific details rather than just putting mastic in a hole, bat in a hole, which is generally what it's been viewed as massively. Yeah.
No, that's good. What do you enjoy most about working in the construction industry? I guess something for each of you there.
Yeah, so from my point of view, within my role, I do get a good buzz from, handing over a project, almost pulling the site team out of a bit of a tight spot sometimes when architects have missed things, and, just using my contacts with like yourselves and other manufacturers just to, go out and find a solution. And I like problem solving, which is good as a contracts manager because every day is a new problem. But yeah, so just get a bit of the buzz off that, and then obviously just seeing all the finished buildings.
Excellent. No, that's good. Yourself, Ryan, anything you particularly enjoy?
For me, it's as much as it's a problem and it creates problems, is the new level of scrutiny on the industry. Because it is a technical issue, and I keep re-emphasising that point, it's a technical business, and I enjoy trying to drill out those details. As Connor says, doing that problem solving, we're on a job, we've proposed a detail, but that detail was ignored, and so the as-built is entirely different. Can you look at a solution? And I enjoy that side of it.
Yeah.
Okay, we've proposed a system, you've not built it as that, it won't be changed. Let's look at options and putting together something that we believe would be an acceptable proposal, hopefully fully in line with testing and therefore fully certifiable. If not, needing to be viewed by someone else. But I enjoy that part of the business.
Yeah,
and it can be challenging.
Yeah,
but that's half the fun sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Good. In terms of, obviously, you've mentioned the things you enjoy, and Ryan, you have alluded to quite a bit, positive changes that are happening, approaches from a more technical perspective. What positive changes are happening currently? Could you say a bit more about that?
I think most main contractors are fully aware now, clients, main contractors, with the Building Safety Act and what it means on their design process. So that's great, because they can't ignore it and then throw a contractor on site and say, right, sort all these problems out. They've got to build it into that design. So for us, that's fantastic. You know, they're engaging with manufacturers, they're engaging with us at an earlier stage. So again, we can look at those proposals and say, right, okay, that's a great proposal, but is it practical and buildable? There might be another option, because we've got that skill set and understanding of what real installations like, and we have those conversations. And then also, because of that, there's more engagement with all the other parties that can affect what you do, the boarders, the M&E guys, all those people that affect what we can do as an installer, qualifying all that information. So I think that's great. It needs to go further than that, but I think most main contractors, designers, they're buying into it now, and they understand that they have to pay attention to it more than they ever did. Yeah, which is good for us and good for the industry.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, would it be fair to say that partly that's changed due to the legislation, obviously the Building Safety Act that's come in? That is definitely a positive change, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. I think that there was a bit of, cynically, bit of a fear factor post-Grenfell, but the Building Safety Act just cemented it as part of the process now. Yeah, and they have to pay attention.
Yeah, no, that's good. Any particular recent success story or project that you'd like to share?
We are still currently on up to date our biggest project for Downey Construction.
Excellent.
And it's a huge apartment structure, shared living. I think there's about 980 apartments across 3 blocks. Like I say, it's been our biggest project up to date, monetary wise, passive fire. And again, it's just having that engagement with them and just pulling them out of bits of holes and stuff like that. It's been a good project. And then another one for myself, we did the fire protection at the new Warrington fire unit.
Excellent.
Over in Warrington, obviously. So again, it's just nice to know that it's a building that will get used in the sense of what we need it for.
No, definitely 2 good ones there. Certainly like the Warrington fire one. That's good. Excellent. Good. In terms of, obviously, we've discussed the positives, the enjoyment side of things, what you enjoy. In terms of challenges, obviously there are a lot out there. What would you say some of the biggest challenges are that you face as a contractor?
Getting all the relevant parties to buy into the importance of fire stopping. So we mentioned that we sit with a designer and an architect, or we'll sit with the main contractor design team. We'll build them a suite of details for compliance. They'll issue it to the build teams to manage the process, and the M&E guy sticks his services wherever he wants. Sorry if there's an M&E guy watching this. They don't think about service spacing, they don't think about service supports, all the things that we need to be able to sign off our compliant solution. And as much as it seems like a pain in the backside for them on site, it means that we have a compliant solution just by giving us that space to install and do the job. So that's a big thing.
Ultimately, the onus always falls back on us as well. Yeah. So if, for instance, a service support's been missed, but then there's an audit, it's our seal that fails ultimately. And it's quite hard for the lads on site to measure service supports. You know, obviously when we do our walk around, we've got quality managers and we do pick them up. But for instance, if we were to miss one, because we can't see every seal, I guess, if there's a report, Elite Fire Stop have done a bad job. Yeah, we haven't done a bad job. What we needed has not been policed. So I think making sure that this is getting policed by the main contractors and M&E, as opposed to seeing that it's the fire stopping side of things. I think that's how the industry probably needs to.
We sit down at the beginning of a project and discuss all these things around a table with the M&E guys, with the boarders. But if they don't share that information with their installers, or if their installers carry on doing what they've always done, which seems to be the bigger problem, we can do all our work right. We can get the correct depth of sealant around that CPVC pipe. We can get the correct annulus. We can do all the right things, but it's not independently supported within that 400 mil as stated by your details. That's not a compliant seal for us. And therefore it's our problem, even though it's someone else's work that has affected it.
Yeah, it's interesting. That I think what it sort of links in with you getting the plan right, getting the design perfect, getting everything right. But then if that plan isn't stuck to on site, that's when things start to go massively wrong. And as you say, it's ultimately the fire stopper is regarded as the bad guy.
We have our own, obviously, ITPs, and I believe personally that within sort of these M&E packages that they should incorporate some of our factors of work in their ITPs. So obviously when their quality managers are doing their checks, they should be checking for things that we've highlighted in the requirements for us.
Yeah.
I think that's how the industry is going to move forward, for it to work for everybody.
People work together. If they just work in their own little silo and don't work with other contractors, the end product will not be compliant.
No, that's and just to touch on that, I don't think it's there's a massive desire from yourselves as contractors, I'm sure, and certainly from our point of view as a manufacturer, to actually work with and engage with these companies. But it needs the same from everyone, doesn't it? From
people,
all
they've all got to
parties.
buy into it.
100%. Yeah, exactly. So Ryan, question for you, or Connor, obviously, if you've got any points as well. But are there any particular frustrations with the fire stopping industry currently?
Yeah, there's some frustrations with how test standards are wrote, unfortunately, and that's not. People write test standards to get so that they can cover as much and get compliant solutions, and I fully get that. But there are limitations in them. As an example, plasterboard ceiling, timber floors I mentioned earlier. It seems ludicrous, and maybe someone from a test background can explain why they can't cover that. But at the moment, the current European fire test standard doesn't extend coverage to plasterboard ceilings, timber floors. That doesn't seem to make sense when it's such a common building, a common element in construction. How many buildings have got timber floors? Yet there aren't compliant solutions for any service penetrations going through those plasterboard timber floor constructions. I know you've got testing or in line with the EN test standard, but not to it because of that limitation or lack of scope of the test itself. And we use that, but it's an ongoing conversation with the client. Look, you need to take a view on it. This is the Quelfire test reports, the information, the drawn details, but you need to take a view on it and get your fire engineer to approve it because it's not a compliant solution.
Yeah.
Surely someone within the testing world can look at that and see a way of extending that scope to a timber floor construction. I'm sure there's a reason why it doesn't necessarily cover it right now, but it just seems in the modern world, in this current climate, that there isn't scope for that. It just doesn't seem to make sense to simple old me.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So I guess, yeah, ad hoc testing is fine, but as you've alluded to, that's obviously what we've got for plasterboard ceilings, but unfortunately there isn't that scope of application.
But there are always limitations in these things because it's relatively new. Well, what did the industry do 10 years ago? They just treat it like a standard service penetration, even though it's a different wall type. You know, and again, that's that new level of scrutiny understanding as the knowledge progresses. But it creates its own problems because then they go, oh, there isn't a solution for that anymore. Because we didn't have a compliant solution before, but we just carried on with a standard penetration seal system. You know.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. How do you think it could be resolved? Do you think more collaboration, perhaps more involvement from those involved in perhaps?
Yeah, I think people who are developing and looking at test standards and how they're worded and what scope they give, maybe speak with people heavily involved in construction, heavily involved in fire stopping, because fire testing in a lab and real world construction are two different things.
Yeah.
So maybe having a bit more of a collaboration with the people on the coalface who have the day-to-day problems, all these kind of things that are ongoing problems, and say, okay, so we need to develop scope for tests to be able to test these scenarios, and then further engagement with manufacturers to then say this is what needs testing. And that's 3 people in a room need to get heavily involved in those conversations. Like I say, from construction people, fire stopping contractors, people at the test houses, and then manufacturers who are then willing to put their money where their mouth is and pay for that fire test.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And another thing I'd just like to add to that, I think, is from Quelfire's perspective, obviously as a manufacturer, we do a lot of testing. We're involved in a lot of that element of it. And I think one thing we have seen in the past is manufacturers of, let's just say, supporting constructions, walls, floors, whatever they may be, in terms of what we've seen is people bringing, here's a great new wall system, let's bring it to market, without that understanding of penetration sealing. So we touched on, obviously, collaboration with M&E before, that sort of element. I think maybe there's a wider picture to look at as well from that perspective.
I'm going to develop a new super pre-insulated pipe system and launch it into the market. It's a lot cheaper and quicker to install than a copper pipe with then having to be insulated afterwards. But hang on a minute, nobody's done any testing with it. Not my problem. Well, it is, because the knock-on effect on site is it's a massive problem.
Yeah, and ultimately it means, yes, it's a great pipe system, but it can't actually be used because there's no penetration.
There isn't a compliant fire stop solution for it.
That's excellent. So in terms of, obviously, there's certain factors outside of your control, as we've just discussed, but in terms of what is in your control, how do you ensure compliance with the latest regulations?
When we start a project, certainly in my new role within the business, we will sit down with the client at the early stages to pull together a pack of details. So we'll then issue them to the client so they understand what's required, what they need to do. As we said earlier, that spacings, things, all those kind of conversations are put together in a format that they can all read and share. We then issue to our lads, so the lads on site know exactly what they're doing, and the contracts manager, and then the contracts manager gets that pack as well. So then he works with the guys to understand, so they fully understand what that is, and that's where Connor would come in then when he starts the project, having had those initial conversations with myself. So Connor will be able to share how we would then manage that process on site, but that's sort of how I fully understand and appreciate it should be done.
Yeah, so typically we'll pass these project packs on. Obviously any new starters, anything, they all get the same. We have our own in-house quality manager who periodically checks jobs. He does like to try and get round each job once every 2 weeks. He'll do some independent checks. He'll obviously check just your general bat and mastic, making sure your annuluses are right and checking in. He also then cross-references the detail that should be used within that role, or within that seal, sorry. And if it's not right, we get a report. We issue the report to the lads. They have a week to put it right. To be honest with you, it's getting better. There is so many different details for each type of scenario, with small variables based on maybe board types, stud widths, sort of stuff like that. Insulation ratings, which is a big one, because 9 times out of 10, just as maybe on a steel pipe, copper pipe, something like that, just adding the bat and the mastic isn't the way. And before, where maybe it was reliant on, again, the M&E package coming up and lagging it, but then it's now making sure the right lagging is to be used. Obviously the right thickness of the lagging type. So again, it's just making sure our lads are aware of that, our quality managers are aware of that, and it's just all diluting that through the business, isn't it?
Well, a key thing that we organised training seminars recently, I put together a little presentation about those things to be aware of. What is fire protection? It's all right saying it's 30 minutes, 60 minutes, integrity and insulation. What's the insulation rating and what that means, as Connor's just alluded to. I've got a copper pipe. Well, copper, it conducts heat. So what do we do to stop that heat being conducted through to the non-fire side? Adding that mineral wool. So we taught the guys through it to help them understand it. And dare I say, and I'm not insulting our guy, we do it in layman's terms. You throw the word insulation out there, everybody's thinking about thermal performance, about U values. They're not thinking about heat transfer. So we use the terminology, it's about heat transfer. So this is what we have to do. And we give our guys that understanding. So when they're on a job, they've gone through that detail pack, they're looking at, oh, I know why I'm doing that extra work now. Let's be honest, it's fiddly, it's a bit of a pain, but they understand why and appreciate the importance of it.
Excellent.
And that's massive for us. If they buy into it and understand why, they're going to go and do it.
When you're learning the job, learn why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Don't just learn what you're actually doing, learn why you're doing that, because then when you're faced with a new scenario, you'll be able to attack it because you've got that knowledge of what should be done.
Perfect.
But also develop your own knowledge, be a specialist. It's a specialist technical industry.
Yeah.
Grow into it and be that specialist.
Perfect. Yeah. No, that's excellent to hear. I really admire that. It's excellent to see that emphasis on quality management, making sure it's right. And I think the education and training you're doing internally is great to see. Yeah, this is so important. It's all very well. Obviously, you, Ryan, as a technical, you, Connor, as contracts manager, that sort of level, understanding the details. But I think what you alluded to, layman's terms, helping those that are actually on the ground understand the details, because there's a lot, rightly so, there's a lot of technical information in the details. But if they don't understand it, as you said, I think that's a brilliant.
Well, I've learnt myself in that manner in using layman's terms, and again, I don't want to. I did a session. I don't want to insult our lads. I don't want to patronise them, and I probably used too technical terms. And a few of the guys told me.
I wouldn't sleep at night knowing if the quality wasn't right. So we've always been keen, and I'm lucky. I'm in a role with a good company, because Dave, John, Martin, they've always backed my ideas. Obviously, I started on tools when I was 18, and now senior contracts manager. I've always put ideas forward. If they thought it's nonsense, they told me it's nonsense. It's been a good idea, even if it's cost us money as a company, and the profit margins have lowered because of it. They've adopted it, and because I've seen it from both sides, I think they trust me to run with that a little bit.
I mean, one of the key things when I joined the business was having those conversations with Dave, and about how he wants to push the business to the next level, and the understanding and the way the industry is changing. They need that knowledge and skill set. So that was important to me, because otherwise I wasn't going to have, it wasn't a conversation, but it was about, we need that. We want to take us to the next level with that technical backup and understanding, and educate the guys and all those things. And that's huge.
Yeah, excellent. No, that's certainly very true. And in terms of compliance, I'm sure it probably goes without saying, but in terms of third-party accreditations and things like that, that's something that you keep up with, is it?
Yeah, with IFE, with Elite Fire Stop C accredited, and we've obviously all to-date audits. With A1, which is more of our intrumescent division, we are FireAS.
Brilliant. No, that's good. Good. So moving on, are there any particular misconceptions around fire stopping either of you would like to clear up?
Mine's a bit at this one.
Well, I think we said earlier, fire stopping's easy. That's a misconception, because it's not. I keep saying it. It's a technical business, and everybody within construction industry, as much as a main contractor, you've got a million plates to spin. They need to understand the importance of it and how complex it is. Because I've had the conversation, I know Connor's had the conversation. We didn't do this on the job in 2017. That job in 2017 was probably not compliant, is the real answer. This is how it should be done, and should have always been done. But in the new level of scrutiny, importance on the industry, you're now more aware. So it's not easy. Like we just spoke about, and I'll re-emphasise, I've got copper pipes. We never put that extra piece of rock mineral insulation on the pipe before, because you didn't get an integrity and insulation seal. We didn't do that extra bit of mineral wrap around those cables in these 2-hour seals, because you didn't get an integrity insulation solution. You just got a 60-minute seal. So it's giving people the knowledge and understanding. It's not simple. It's a technical industry, but that's why we're involved as a specialist, and we can help you get it right.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. I think that's the misconception, is understanding it is a specialist role, and that's why specialists need to be involved.
I think the industry needs to get better. I think there needs to be a proper apprenticeship scheme, because it's quite hard for us to bring in new starters. Obviously, lads want to learn, but then when we're on site, we're getting a bit of scrutiny because, oh, your lad's not got his MVQ level 2. But you can't get your MVQ level 2 until you've got 2 years experience.
Especially with the massive focus now on competency with the Building Safety Act. How do you prove your competency? I've been doing it for 5 years. Does that prove your competency? Who taught you? You know, you'd be taught by a bloke who's been doing it 20 years and was taught by a boarder who was doing it wrong 20 years ago, kind of thing. And that's why we're trying to get rid of all that. This is how you do it. This is a practical way of doing it, in line with manufacturer details, fully compliant. Forget what you may or may not have been taught previously. This is how you do it. But then again, like Connor said, then you get your MVQ in 2 years to prove your competency, some kind of justification or proof of competency.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point there about bringing bringing, if it's the right expression to use, but new blood through, as in younger people through.
The newer lads, the younger lads, they're the ones who are coming through, who'll thrive in this industry. But if they're not allowed on site because they haven't got this qualification, because obviously our tier ones want us to have competencies for all our men on site.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Yeah, no, it's interesting.
And I'm keen to emphasise, I'm not saying that all the older guys that have been doing it for years, it's not their fault necessarily they were doing it wrong.
No.
The industry didn't train the
Yeah.
people correctly and support them correctly to do it.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I think what you've touched on, a couple of points you've made there, Ryan, about that in terms of, well, we didn't used to do this or have been doing it this way for so long. I think that is quite an important thing to message, to get across, that you may well have been, you may have experience, and it's not to disregard experience at all, but it is so important to understand that it may not necessarily have always been right doing it that way. So yeah, no, that's excellent. Maybe not something that you want to give, but is there any advice you give to new contractors entering the industry?
Yeah, don't answer.
Don't enter, leave it to the specialists.
We briefly touched on it already when we were speaking with Carl. We just don't cut the corners, just realise that it is a specialist trade. You know, like I said before, it's a thriving industry at the minute.
Don't jump on the bandwagon now because I can make a quick buck.
Yeah.
Quick buck. If you're going to do it for that, wrong industry. But if you want to be a specialist, educate yourself so you understand what fire performance is and what the relevant standards are you need to achieve, and then look at your fire stopping solutions out there and work with the compliant systems, understand your options, and then, as we spoke about earlier, educate your lads, train your lads properly so they know what they're doing.
And just finally, in terms of, obviously we work closely with you at Quelfire, providing solutions and materials. Is there anything that we can be doing more, or anything you'd like to say about how we do support you?
Well, it's been interesting for me, having come from a manufacturer, is one of the things I've been impressed with is the speed of response for the technical queries that we have. That's been really helpful. And the scope of testing that you've got, it's good. Nobody's perfect, nobody can cover everything, but you've got a good wide range. And, you know, plasterboard ceiling testing, you caveat it, you qualify because the limitations test standard, this is what we've done. It's a conversation with your client. So it's transparent. You know, yeah, there's a lot of detail or information in the details, but again, that's the nature of the technical industry we're in. But it's there and we can use it and we can read through it and understand it. And if we don't, it's a phone call or it's an email.
No, that's excellent. Appreciate that. That's good. Yeah. Good. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate your time today. And yeah, it's great working with you guys at Elite and appreciate everything you do. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Meet the Contractor. If you'd like to stay tuned for more episodes in the future or other updates from Quelfire, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you're following us on LinkedIn. Thank you.